And then there's the whole issue of the emotional toll that this is taking on the country. Yesterday, we showed you a new USA Today Suffolk University poll, which showed that Joe Biden leads Trump 57 to 39% on the question of who cares about people like themselves. That number in mind when listening to this next piece of sound. Yesterday, President Trump was asked if he's spoken with the families of anyone who has died in the pandemic other than the family of his one friend that he has mentioned along the way. Take a listen.
You've spoken about your friend who passed away. I was wondering if you've spoken to the families of anyone else who has lost loved ones to COVID-19, if there's any particular stories that have affected you.
Well, I have many people. I know many stories. I've spoken to 3, maybe I guess 4 families unrelated to me. I lost a very good friend. I also lost 3 other friends, 2 of whom I didn't know as well, but they were friends and people I did business with, and probably almost everybody in the room did. And it's a bad death. It's a bad thing. It grips onto some people. Now we found out that young people do extraordinarily well. That's why I think we can start thinking about schools. But of course, we're ending the school season. So, it wouldn't be probably you wouldn't be back for too long. I noticed where Purdue University, a great school in a great state, wants to open and have students come in. I think that's correct. Some colleges, I think I saw Harvard wants to have students come back in the fall. I would hope that they'd have students. I think that the whole concept of computer learning is wonderful, but it's not tele-learning. But it's not the same thing as being in a classroom in a great college or a college of any kind, college, university. There's nothing, you can't replace that. So hopefully they're going to be coming back. Young people do very well with this horrible scourge. They do very well. So I am going to see you tomorrow. And we'll have other things to talk about. We have a lot of interesting things. I don't think we should have a news conference today because this is a news conference. In addition, it's a celebration of these incredible people that have done such a good job. And I think we found a couple of stars in this room today. I won't tell you who, but there are a couple. This guy right here is the biggest star in the room, right? We'll all agree he's the big. I vote for you, okay? Great job you've done, and I really appreciate it, too. I appreciate you being here. Couldn't have done better.
What was the question?
So the question was about people who died, and had you spoken to any? And he can't do it. He just can't do it. He's uncomfortable, or it's impossible for him, and I'm not sure which is worse, actually.
Or maybe he hasn't spoken.
You have an opportunity to speak to the historic number of people. It matches the number of people lost in the Vietnam War. You have an opportunity to speak to the loss, the humanity of this, the pain of this, the unbelievable impact it will have on generations. And you can't do it. You pivot to schools opening and computers and telelearning, and then this guy. Wow. I mean, it's impossible to know somebody who disappoints you more every single day than this president. And I mean, that was, Joe, that was pathetic. That was really sad that he can't even feign empathy. He can't try to feign empathy.
They actually tried.
He won't do it.
They actually tried at the press conference yesterday by having him read a couple of lines, which he read very poorly. But Willie, while the president's talking about reopening schools, this is a commander-in-chief that is forcing West Point graduates to fly back from across the country when they're concerned for their safety, when the administrators at West Point are concerned about their safety. And the president has said he wants them back so he can deliver a commencement address, and actually said he wanted them to be tight, wanted them to be together tight. He didn't like the social distancing that they had at the Air Force Academy. Again, obviously, stating the obvious here, not a serious man, but a dangerous man when it comes to handling this pandemic. He's undersold it repeatedly. Now he's talking about getting schools back when 85% of Americans don't want schools back. And And here he is talking about even forcing cadets to fly back from across the country, and many of them right now helping with this pandemic response, to fly back so they can hear him read a speech.
Yeah, and these are the signs, those people we were talking about at the top of the show who say that all this stay-at-home action that we've taken, all this social distancing is the greatest mistake in history, and all the other extreme, ridiculous comments. They get signals from Donald Trump. The signals include, I don't know, not wearing a mask when you go to the Mayo Clinic, for example, if you're in the administration, or talking about coming back for Easter, or talking about it's fine to have the graduation at West Point. So despite the guidelines they put out, those people watch the actions of this president and this White House. But looking at that question, Joe, just imagine again what Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, go down the line, what that moment would have been like with any other president. And Jimmy Carter, go back through every president in history, what that moment would have been like, the speech they would have given, the story they might have told. It reminded me of the moment a few weeks ago in the briefing room when he barked at Peter Alexander for the simple question of what's your message to Americans who are scared? And he said, my message is you're a terrible reporter, to Peter Alexander. These moments, those are difficult phone calls, but politically, those are the easiest moments to just be a human, to just be a person, to express some base level of empathy. And as you guys just said, he's simply not capable of it.
Well, a conservative editor told me yesterday, this should be so easy. Get up, give them the facts, let the doctors speak, mourn with Americans, move towards fixing this crisis. But the man just is incapable of doing it. And Mika, this is... Again, it's an ongoing problem. More people have died in America now of this than died at Vietnam. A tragic war that ripped this country apart for a generation because of the 57,000 deaths. This is a president who said it would magically go away in April. This is a president who said that it was one person from China, then it was going to be down to zero. This is a president who said it was 11 people, and pretty soon it was going to be down to zero. There's a president who said it was 15 people, pretty soon it was going to be down to zero. Again, in January, in February, in March, still saying it was going to go away in April. And in one day, in a single day in April, more Americans died of the coronavirus, which he said was going to magically go away in April, than died in our 19-year war in Afghanistan.
In 2 months' time.
Well, in 2 months' time, more people died than died in the Korean War, combat deaths. More people died than died in Vietnam. Again, the scale is remarkable. And the fact that Trumpists are still, the propagandists, are still on this kick. Some still talking about it being like the flu. Some still talking about how this was a mistake. Again, they think that they're going to get more clicks. They think that somehow this is the way forward for the Republican Party. This is a dead end because we're not in the ninth inning of this. We're in the second inning of the ninth inning. We hope that this summer we've continued to flatten the curve. But here's the thing, Patty K, when we're flattening the curve, what are we doing? We're delaying the deaths. We're delaying the infections. We're spreading them out over time so hospital capacity will not melt down. So these idiots, and I'm sorry, I just have to say, they're idiots. These idiots who continue to push the hoax button don't realize this doesn't magically go away. This will stay with us until there's a vaccine. And let us pray that there's a vaccine sooner rather than later. I pray that for members of my family. I pray that for members of your family. I pray that for every family that have elderly people in their homes or elderly loved ones or who have children with underlying conditions. But bending the curve is just spreading out the number of infections, just spreading out the number of deaths in a way that the hospitals and society can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, all we're doing when we flatten the curve is protecting now our health systems from a massive onslaught of cases. And the other thing that we're doing is buying ourselves time, right? And you have to be hoping that our leaders around the world are using that time productively because, as Dr. Fauci has said, it is coming back in the fall. And all we can do is now prepare ourselves better so that when it does come back in the fall, our hospitals are better equipped. We know what to do. We've got the right amount of PPE. We have the right number of tests. We can test much more widely. And then really all we're doing is we're waiting. We're waiting for those people, hopefully at Oxford University or somewhere else, to come up with that vaccine and test it and make sure that it's safe, or to come up with some kind of therapeutic that can cure people who do get the degree. But there's no magic bullet in flattening the curve. All it is a time buy. We are buying time to try to get a therapy, to try to get a vaccine, and to sort out our health system so that when it comes back, we're better prepared.
Try and get testing right, finally. Still ahead on Morning Joe, NBC News just sat down with one of China's most influential leaders. What he's saying about the spread of the coronavirus and President Trump's pledge to hold Beijing accountable. We'll go live to China for that, and that segment should give two of our guests later plenty to talk about. Two top members from the Foreign Relations Committee, Senators Chris Murphy and Chris Coons, join the discussion. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.